we are going to begin a series called Defeating the Giants in Your Life. It's the life of David, and we really want to say this. Today we're tackling this subject, defeating the giant of fear, and the reason is this: we live in the age of anxiety.
Exactly. And for example, I remember a story about a little boy in a car with his dad, and he's asking him questions, and he goes, "Daddy, are you afraid of spiders?" "No." "Are you afraid of robbers?" "No." "Thunder?" "No." "Are you afraid of ghosts?" "No." And the boy looks at his dad and goes, "Wow, then I guess mommy's the only thing you're afraid of." And that was just a couple years ago. It was great. And by the way, I
remember that conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to introduce you to a couple of our family members, by the way, on our side. Check out this photo. This is us during Thanksgiving at Disneyland, and we're on this ride. And in the front, you can see my brother Mark and his fiancee Gia were really excited. They just got...
Wait a second. In fairness, how many of you have had your picture taken on something like this? They don't tell you they're going to take it or when, and it's really like who's terrified or who's not.
Yeah, and by the way, and so Mark and Gia got engaged like last month. We're really excited for them. And my sisters, Christy and Leslie, are in the middle. And there are two people on this ride who are not enjoying themselves. And so we're going to be talking about giant fears today. And
I like preaching with Kurt better. No, I'm kidding.
That's so great. And so what's your giant, right? Maybe it's health stuff. Maybe it's financial stuff. Maybe you're facing giant fears about your kids. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's the future. Maybe you're afraid of getting older. In fact, I read on that on the campaign trail, John McCain, when he was running for president, stopped in a nursing home and for a photo op. And as he was going through, there was everyone was really impressed except for one elderly woman in the corner. And so he goes up to her and he goes, "Ma'am, do you know who I am?" And she goes, "No, but there are wonderful nurses over there who can help you with that." And maybe some of you can relate. Sorry. This is the last time I'm preaching up here. So.
Yep, enjoy your last day. So here's the deal. The subject, defeating the giant of fear. Fear will cripple you, paralyze you, all while making you miserable and wrecking your future. And so if you've got your notes out, we are going to do an in-depth Bible study today. And folks, to be really honest, I have had more fun preparing this message than anything in a long, long time. It's the first time we've ever done this together. And Scott's a theology student. He's actually very good at this stuff. I learned stuff from Scott about this that I did not know, which is embarrassing to admit. And this is going to be a ball, but get your pen out. If you got a Bible, we got all the verses in here. Just get ready. We're going to tear this thing apart because fear will wreck your future unless you get a grip on how do I defeat it. Okay, and so this brand new series is Defeating the Giant of Fear. We're going to begin by giving you 4 destructive signs of fear.
That's right. And in 1 Samuel 17, which is the passage we're looking at, an entire nation is paralyzed by fear except for one guy. We're talking about the story of David and Goliath, right? So many of you are so familiar with this story. In fact, most of us are familiar with the story from childhood, right? And so we've compiled together a little montage for you of all the ways that this story has been told. Go ahead and check out this screen.
What's this? The Hebrews are sending children to face me now.
You are only a boy! Whoa, am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?
I'll give your flesh to the birds and your bones to the dogs!
God will deliver you into my hand this day.
It's your body that the dogs will eat. And all the world will know there is a God in Israel.
have it. The story of David and Goliath as portrayed by a British guy and a giant cucumber. And so we're going to give you 4 destructive steps that fear takes us on that can wreck our lives. And the first one is this. Go ahead and write it in. We focus on our problems. They focused on only their problems. And in fact, check out this passage in 1 Samuel 17, starting in verse 4. A champion named Goliath. Go ahead and just circle Goliath for a second. We're going to come back to that. From Gath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. He was over 9 feet tall. Circle 9 feet tall. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. On his legs, he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod, and its iron point weighed 600 shekels. Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistine said, "This day I defy the ranks of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." Now, let's rewind for a second. Goliath, his name's Goliath, right? Well, that Hebrew word actually is actually meaning soothsayer or magician. It actually means soothsayer or magician. In other words, Goliath, it's not even really a name, it's more of a title. In fact, it's more of like he's built up this supernatural representation of who he is to everyone and he's trying to make himself seem even more larger than life than he already is. And in fact, 9 feet tall, right? Some of you might be sitting here going, okay, what next? The beanstalk? Really? Really? Are we talking about giants here? Is this even physically possible? Well, let me introduce you to a guy named Robert Wadlow. Here's a picture of him. He is modern history's tallest ever recorded man.
And Sacramento Kings' new center. Here we go.
And he stood at a height of 8 feet 11 inches. That is incredible. And most experts say Goliath was around 9 feet 9 inches, somewhere around there. But this is still possible genetically speaking. And in fact, it says Goliath was descended from the Anakim race. And you're like, well, who are the Anakim? Well, and the Anakim were a race of really, really tall people. Simple as that. And in fact, it's not just corroborated in the Bible. There are also ancient Babylonian documents who call out the Anakim, ancient Greek documents, what was the third one? It was ancient Babylonian, Greek. Well, all these different documents are calling out the Anakim as this race of really tall people. And what I love,
by the way, all this stuff, I'm sitting here going, we're studying this stuff, and Scott's going, you know, Goliath was a title, not a name. And I went, no, I didn't know that. Take some notes on that stuff. And you had a great point about David.
Yeah, and if you look at David, by the way, and let's put a perspective. Like, take a look at that box on your outline. The difference between these two is striking. Here you have Goliath, who is this Philistine from Gath. He's over 9 feet tall. The race of really tall people, superior weaponry. All that description in there is to just tell you, like, man, Goliath is a walking behemoth. He is a metal man. He is armed to the teeth. And that shield bearer word is actually the word for like a tower shield, like a full body shield. So this guy is a walking tank. Then you have David, who is from the podunk town of Bethlehem. He is the youngest, the runt of 8 brothers. He is about probably 13 years old, anywhere from 10 to 17. He has no previous battle experience, and he is armed with a piece of leather and a couple of pebbles. Who would you bet on? Right? In fact, there was no doubt they had a giant-sized problem, and it's so big, they're afraid there's no solution.
So when your life self-destructs, it happens in these steps. Step 1 is they focus only on their problems. Okay? That always leads to what happens next. Because they focused only on their problems, they expected only defeat. When I focus on my problems, I'm going to expect only defeat. And how do you know this? Check this out. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed, circle that, and terrified, circle that. Those things, their inner life is wrecked because they're expecting defeat, and the reason they're expecting defeat is because they're focused only on their Problems. And folks, whether you're a high school student or whether you're my age or whether you're way younger than me than Scott's age, whatever you are, here's the deal. When you're discouraged, when you're terrified, when you can't sleep, when you're insecure, when you're miserable, I can't tell you how much this has changed my life in the last 3 to 4 years. And because it actually has become second nature. Right now, when I'm discouraged or want to quit or not, or just an inner mess, when that happens to me, you know what I do now? I literally do this. I stop, I look in a mirror, and I go, Ray, you are discouraged, not because of your circumstances. You are discouraged and fearful because you are focused only on your, and because you're focused only on your problems, you're expecting only defeat. The worst is going to happen. And I know better than that. Folks, this is life-changing stuff if you got it. Because the deal is this. When I focus only on my problems, I expect only. And when I expect only defeat, that leads to an attitude of
self-protection. That leads to an attitude of self-protection. Check this out. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. When the Israelites saw the man, they all ran from him in what? Great fear. Circle great fear. You know, when we focus on our problems, when we expect defeat, it leads us to being paralyzed and hypnotized. And as a result, the Israelites sat shanking in their tent for 40 days. In other words, they stopped living for anything that mattered. In fact, let me give you a list of things that they should have been caring about. They should have been caring about the future of their country, protecting their kids, the faith they stood for, the values they stood for, and the cause that they were living for. And they should have cared, and they should care, because this is one of the most pivotal battles in all of history.
Yeah, we were talking about this battle. I'm a historian, and so one historian says this: the battle between David and Goliath is the single most important battle ever fought in human history. And the reason it is important is at that point in time, Israel was the only nation that had the values that we have in Western civilization. The only nation, okay? The only nation with monotheism, all this kind of stuff. If this battle, if David didn't have the courage, if he'd wimped out like everybody else, okay, the scary world we live in would be a whole different messy place. None of the things we love about living here we would have if this battle, most important battle, but they're ignoring the entire thing. You know, here's the real problem is this: they are so afraid they stop living for things that actually really matter. Got it? So, y'all ready for this? They focused only on their problems, which meant they expected only, which means they had an attitude of, and here it is, and when that happens, you reap the results. You reap the results. When the Israelites saw the man, they all ran from him in great fear. They ran away. As Charlie Brown, the great philosopher, put it, there is no problem so big I can't run away from it. And the problem is this: the minute I let fear grip me and those things happen to me, I lose. So write these 4 things in. Cover to cover, the Bible says you lose in 4 ways. First of all,
it limits our potential, and it always limits our potential. Check this out. In John 20:19, the disciples, after Jesus had been crucified, it says this: the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish authorities. Let me ask you a question. Do doors lock from the inside or the outside? Inside. And that's what fear does for us. Fear is the self-imposed prison that locks in our worries and anxieties and discouragement and depression, all while paralyzing our potential. And it doesn't just limit our potential, it also overshadows our joy. It also overshadows our joy. I love this. Psalm 55:2, it says this. David writes, and this is David writing this, the guy we're talking about.
Great verse.
I am worn out by my worries. How many of you have ever been worn out by your worries? In fact, this happens so often to me. If I was a superhero, I would be worst case scenario, man. That would be my superhero name. Immediately. Like,
Wait. I haven't heard that before. What is that?
It's worst case scenario, man. That would be my superhero name. It'd be like a superpower. And I'd be at home. I'm sitting and watching TV. In fact, this happened just recently. I was sitting at home watching TV, and I look at the clock, and I realize that my wife is 5 minutes late from her errand. And immediately, my thought is, well, she's probably dead. It's like, there's a pain in my knee. Well, it's probably bone cancer or something. I don't know. It's something, right? And let me give you a great quote, by the way. More people are worn out by worry than work because more people worry than work.
Fear damages us by limiting our potential, overshadowing our joy. Number 3 is this: it sabotages success. It sabotages success. You can read those verses later, but here's the deal. Whether high school students, I want to talk to you for a second. The rest of y'all just get to listen in. Is there any good thing you ever should have done that you didn't do because you were afraid or insecure? Okay? Watch this. High school students over here, raise your hand if you're going, there's probably somebody I should have asked out. There's probably something I should have gone after. There's probably a sport I should have tried. There's probably something I should have run for. Raise your hand if you're going, I didn't do it because I didn't have enough guts, and now I regret it. Everybody in here that's honest, his hand is up. Okay, the other people whose hand didn't go up are too afraid to raise them. And this is embarrassing. When I was in high school, I never ran for any office. Never had the guts to run for an office. Should have. Actually, I had people occasionally go, you should run for president or something. I never had the guts to run for office. Now watch this. Raise your hand if you ran for, whether you lost or won, you ran. Raise your hand. Okay? Raise your hand if you didn't. Most of us. And if you go, why didn't I? Why didn't you? Because I was afraid I wouldn't get elected. I was afraid I wouldn't get elected. I was too insecure to run. When Scott was in high school, I think he was a junior or senior, he ran as president or vice president or something. He ran and he got home and I said, well, what happened? He said, I lost. And then I said, well, what? You know, he said, yeah, I got inside information, man. I lost by 3 votes. I went, and I looked at him and I said, okay, son, to be really honest with you, you didn't lose. You won. And you won because you ran. You won because you didn't let fear grip you. You won because you ran. I said, and when I told him about me, I said, you just did something I've never done. I never had the guts to run. I have a son that had the guts to run for an office. I said, you're a better guy than the guy that's raising you. And can you all relate to this stuff? It will sabotage your future if you look. I fought launching this church and almost didn't launch this church for 6 months because I was afraid of everything you could think of. Thank God I let go of that fear. But I'll tell you the story sometime. The limits potential, overshadows joy, sabotage. And the last one is this. Fear will eliminate adventure right out of your life and you'll become a boring Nation of Israel person hiding in your tent, shaking with fear. I love this. Matthew 25. I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. You'll never serve. They are choked by the worries, riches, pleasure. Worry will choke you out. Worry suffocates you. You can't breathe, have joy, or anything else. And here's what we want to say. Before we get into God's antidotes for being gripped by fear, here's what I want to say. No matter how much you have been limited or gripped by fear, you don't have to live this way. You do not have to live this way. High school students, you do not have to go through 4 years in high school every day worried about what everybody's thinking about you. To graduate and discover nobody was thinking about you. You don't have to live this way. Let me show you a 92-year-old woman that said, I'm not going to be gripped by fear. Check this out. She was on the news.
A woman about to be mugged in the parking lot of a Walmart turned things around on her would-be attacker. Without a gun, without pepper spray, she protected herself. I was lucky enough to meet Pauline Jacoby in Dyersburg. She told me about the powerful words that saved her and could possibly save her attacker, too.
I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins.
92-year-old Pauline Jacoby reads her Bible every day. Her strong faith keeps her going in life, and in the process may have saved it. Jacoby had just finished putting away her groceries inside her car at a nearby Walmart. Only seconds after Jacoby got into her car, a man jumped in the passenger side. The man told Jacoby he had a gun and that he would shoot her if she didn't give him money.
I said, no, I'm not going to give him my money.
Jacoby told him no 3 times. Then she started to talk to him.
You know, because you killed me, I'll go to heaven and you go to hell.
She told him to ask God for forgiveness.
I said, Jesus is in this car and he goes with me everywhere I go. And he just started looked around and the tears began coming in his eyes.
Jacoby ministered the man for 10 minutes inside her car.
And he said, I think I'll go home and pray tonight. I said, you don't have to wait a minute. I said, you can just pray anytime you want to.
As tears were rolling down the man's face, Jacoby voluntarily gave him all the money she had, $10.
And when I told him I was going to give him the money, I said, don't you spend it on whiskey either.
The man thanked her for the money and then
reached over and kissed me on the cheek.
and walked away.
He walked away.
That might be my favorite human being.
No kidding.
So awesome.
I would like, raise your hand if you would like to have as much courage as a 92-year-old unarmed woman facing a gun. Good. How do you get it? How do you get it? You get it by not by developing. Scott actually taught me something. He said positive thinking versus.
So here's the thing. The positive stuff we're talking about. We're not talking about a Pollyanna, like no negative thoughts kind of thinking. Okay, there's a lot of that out there. This is not that. In fact, there is a positive thinker in this story, and it's not David. It's Goliath. Goliath is the positive thinker here. In fact, Goliath the whole time is like puffing himself up. He's saying like how he's going to destroy everything. Never once is Goliath like, I don't know about this. And in fact, David doesn't just use positive thinking because it's positive thinking. There's a difference between positive thinker versus positive faith.
That's good.
And David doesn't just use positive thinking. He didn't go running up to Goliath going, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. In fact, he had positive faith. He was able to say, I know I can because I know God can.
Oh, that's good. So the question is this: how do you develop positive faith? How do you develop a faith that's so positive you're liberated from the grip of fear and your future is no longer limited and your joy returns and you can actually really get out of that tent and run free? How does that happen? I actually believe this. In the Bible, the way God worked then is the way he works now. If you will take David's 5 steps, you will be separated from all of the ridiculously afraid people hiding in their tents. Step number 1, David took is this: remember your purpose. You remember your purpose. In other words, whoa, wait a second. I'm supposed to be living for something great. He says to the Philistine, you come against me with a sword and spear and javelin, and yeah, you're a big dude, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied, big guy. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head so clean you won't know it till you sneeze. Today, I was kidding. Today I will give you the carcass of the Philistine army and the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth, and here's the purpose. The whole world will know there's a God in Israel. And all those who are gathered here will know it is not by sword or by spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord, and he's going to give you into all of our hands. There's only one compelling reason for David to charge Goliath. He's got a great commitment to a great cause. And I want to say this. If you're not living for anything great, the cause of Christ, sharing our faith, alleviating poverty, helping people, serving people, advancing the kingdom of God. If you're living for that, you're going to have courage because you're focused on why you're here. If you don't live for a cause, your cause is going to be yourself, which means you're going to be afraid the rest of your life. That makes sense? Number one is this: remember your purpose and start living for great things that matter. The second step he took is a big deal. It's
eliminate negative thinking. Eliminate negative thinking. Before we actually read that passage, I want to give you some things that David does not focus on. Right? He doesn't focus on the size of the problem. He's going, what giant? I've got someone in my corner that's bigger than any giant this world can throw at me. And he doesn't focus on the negative thinking of the ruling authorities. He doesn't think about the negative thinking of the ruling authorities. In fact, every great idea in history was opposed at some point by some expert. In fact, check this out. The Beatles, a record executive turned down the Beatles with this note: guitar groups are on their way out. Oops. And a movie studio executive turned down Fred Astaire, one of the greatest American Hollywood dancers of all time, with this memo: bald, can't act, can dance a little. And so what Fred did was he took that memo, he framed it and put it above the mantle in his Beverly Hills house for his entire career. And it's so interesting. And this happens to David too. King Saul comes up to David, this expert in warfare, and he goes, you can't do this. You have no experience and you're only a kid. He's been fighting since his youth. And so he doesn't think, and so David is not focusing on the negative thinking of the ruling authorities, and he's not focusing on the negative thinking of his family. In fact, the chapter right before this, David isn't even brought out by his father. So the prophet Samuel comes to David's family and goes, hey, I'm going to anoint one of your kids to be the next king of Israel. And you're thinking, oh man, better get all the kids, right? Well, 7 of David's older brothers walk on by, and Samuel's like, well, it's none of these. Do you have anybody else? And Jesse goes, well, I mean, there's Hakkaton out by the sheep. And by the way, the word Hakkaton there, his David basically calls him like the runt or little useless one. He goes, well, there's, little useless, there's Dinky out by the garage, but like, you can't mean him, right? And so, and by the way, I have a great story here. My wife and I went out to breakfast one time. I won't name the restaurant. And there was a Baysider who was a waitress there. And we're talking, and it's great. We're out with another couple, and we're chatting and everything. And she recognizes my wife, who leads worship around Bayside. And she goes, oh, I recognize you. You're at Bayside. Yeah, and I go there. And we love doing that. We love talking about Bayside. And what happens is she goes, oh, well, how are you connected? And I go, well, my dad and my family started Bayside 20 some odd years ago. And she goes, oh yeah, I've seen you. You're the one who like is on stage playing guitar. And I'm like, no, that's my brother Mark. He looks more like Jesus, with the big beard, sorry, Mark. And I'm the second oldest son. He's the oldest, I'm the second oldest. And she goes, are you sure? And I go, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And she goes, no, I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure Ray only had one son. I'm like, what do you do at that point, right? Do you pull out your license? Like, I don't know. And I'm going, and negative thinking can come from anywhere. And I go, David does better. David has a better response. So what does David focus on? Check out this passage. But David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. Go ahead and just underline that for a second. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And what I love here is that David focuses on the living God. He doesn't focus on the problems. He doesn't focus on the negative thinking. He focuses on every instance that God has been there in his past. And everybody is standing there saying, Goliath is too big to beat. And David's going, he's too big to miss.
Before I give you the next point, I want you to raise your hand if 100 people came up and said something positive to you, and one person said one negative thing, you would remember the negative thing every time. Raise your hand. Every one of us is wired like that. Do not let people who are cruel in your family or authorities or friends or wherever, do not let them define who you are and what your future is going to be about. Eliminate negative thinking. Stop letting them control your inner life, okay? They don't care about you anyway, so don't let them impact you, okay? Remember your purpose. Eliminate negative thinking. Third one, and here already some good news. David decides, I'm going to relax and be myself. I'm going to relax and be myself. It says this, then Saul dressed David in his own tunic. He put his coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet. Can't you picture David like he's covered with armor? He can't even move. Finally, you know what David does? He goes, this ain't me. Takes it all off. Because I'm a shepherd. Give me some rocks. That's it. He's fighting Iron Man with rocks, pebbles. But you know what? David knew what would hinder him, and he knew what would help him. And he knew what worked for him. The greatest way to serve God is just to be yourself. Is that good news or what? How liberating. When the minute you try to become somebody else, you're always afraid you're not measuring up. Okay? And so remember your purpose, eliminate negative thinking. And then David just decides, I'm going to relax and be myself. And then this next one is a really big deal.
It's a really crucial one. And in fact, it's run toward, not away from the battle. Run toward, not away from your battle. In fact, if you look at that passage, go down to the last sentence. This is so good. As the Philistine moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him. Let me read that again. As the Philistine moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him. Why? Because David knew a fundamental truth, is that if you want to make a difference, you've got to take action. You have to take action. Why? Because it impacts everyone you care about. In fact, check this out. Look what happened after David took action. In 1 Samuel 17:50-52, it says this.
By the way, on this one, look up at the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have these verses on the screen?
Yeah, it's right there.
Here, let's read them there.
So check this out. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. And then the next word is, then. Go home, highlight that in your Bible, underline it, circle it, do whatever you have to remember that, because that is the most pivotal word, I think, in this entire passage. Then the men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. Let me ask you some questions. When did the people shout? When did they charge? They did it after David killed the giant. And that's what can happen every time you face a giant in your life. The minute you knock it down, that giant, other people around you will say, we can do that too. Think of how you can inspire your own kids, and when you can tell them honestly about the lion or the bear or the giant that God helped you defeat in your life. This is massive, because even if all you feel like you've got is a pebble, put your pebble into play.
That's right. That's exactly right. And see this run toward, not away from your battle? Why is that a big deal? We were talking about it earlier. We want to give you a phrase. It's going to go up on the screen. You can write it if you want. Here it is. You will never possess what you're unwilling to pursue. You will never possess. A lot of people are going, I want a better relationship with God. Then you got to pursue God. Okay? I want to get to know my Bible. Then I actually have to read it. I got to pursue it. Okay? I would like some friendships. I'd like to get better connected to this church. Go to intro. Got to pursue it. Okay? I would like to grow. I want better health. Well, walk out of the donut shop and walk into Lifetime. Okay? Whatever it takes. Okay? I've got to run toward, not away from that, because you will never possess what you're unwilling to pursue. If I want this year to be better than last year, I got to pursue the things that are going to make it better. Does that make sense? Okay. And the last one is this. Remember the source of your strength. Remember the source of your strength. David says, the battle is the Lord's, and he is the one that will give you into our hands. Okay? And keep your notes right there. What David knew was this, and I hope you know it too if you know Christ. David knew there is a source of strength because my God's alive and risen from the dead, which means this: God can work anywhere, and there are some things that only God can do that God loves to do. Would you all agree? Okay, I'll give you an example of that. And I stood there. I was literally standing there going, human beings cannot arrange this. We changed Christmas Eve around this year. Our staff worked hours I've never seen anybody work. And which, for this year, the first year, Christmas Eve attendance was like 50,000 people. And that, which, if you care about people being impacted for Christ, this is gloriously good news. And after the second service up at Adventure, I'm standing in front, and this really cool lady came up, and she said, can I introduce you to somebody? I have guests here from the Congo. Now, we have a relationship with the Congo. We raised $1 million to save lives in the Congo. The Congo is the most dangerous place in the world to live according to World Vision. Okay? 2 of every 5 kids born in the Congo dies before age 5. Some parents don't name their kids until they get a couple years old because they're going to see if they live before they give them a name. It's war-torn, it's dangerous, and she said, these folks are from Congo, but they're amazing people. So I said, I'd love to meet. I walked down, and there's a really neat family, and it turns out this guy's an amazing Christian leader who was in the Congo. He was leading Young Life in the Congo. And she was a TV personality and then a doctor in Congo. And they had 3 kids. Their oldest daughter died. Their son has spinal bifida. He's in a wheelchair. And then they have a new child, and they have just moved here at great peril. I mean, they were refugees in Rwanda. It was just crazy. They arrive here, and they said, oh, yes, we came to Bayside at Granite Bay last week. I said, oh, man, great. Welcome to Bayside. So nice to meet you. And I said, where do you live? They said, we live in Cameron Park. And I said, we have a church in Folsom that is closer to you guys? And they said, oh, that'd be great. And because they're setting up shop and trying to find furniture just to equip a house and survive. And then I went, the odds of this are astronomical. I went, the pastor from Folsom is not supposed to be at Adventure, okay? But I thought, I said, I should introduce you to the pastor of Folsom sometime. So I call him and I go, Brian, here's a family I'd love you to meet sometime. He goes, well, I'm here. I go, where are you? He goes, I'm looking at you. I go, come here. So he comes up, and all I had to say to Brian was, hey, these folks are from the Congo. He looks at them, and they have that shell shock, like, new, what's going on with everything, and we just moved. And he said, I used to live in Congo. He goes, 4 of my kids are adopted from the Congo. And all of a sudden, they lit up like a Christmas present had just arrived. Here's somebody who gets us. They're hugging. They're going crazy. And then Brian has a conversation with them, and then he has them over for Christmas. And goes out, and we take money from Folsom, the Church of Folsom, and we start buying them furniture they need and all of this kind of stuff. And these are absolutely heroic, been through hell, and come out and are now in the United States, folks. But I'm standing there, I'm going, what are the odds they make it here? They live in Cameron Park. The pastor of the closest Bayside, I'm actually getting to meet them. I call Brian. He's actually there. The pastor from there is here looking at me, comes up, meets them. What are the odds of this? Human beings can't do this stuff, can you? Want to try to arrange that? And then I thought, I wonder if they would come to this campus sometime and let us welcome them to the United States into our Bayside family properly and celebrate the heroic things they've done in their country and then their arrival here. And they said yes. So would you give Florent, Eunice, and their kids Noah and Emmanuel a Bayside welcome? Hey, just stay standing for a second. Is this great or what? Welcome to the United States of America and welcome to Bayside Church.
Thank you.
All right? And Florent, we're going to introduce your family. Your name is?
Florent Benga.
That's right. And you are?
Eunice Mwamini.
And you are?
Noah Benga.
All right, Noah, let's hear it for Noah. Glad you're here, buddy. And who's this little guy?
Emmanuel.
This is Emmanuel.
Yes.
So you got 3 biblical names and Florent. Great. And when you were in Congo, you worked with, who'd you work with?
I work with Young Life.
That great Christian ministry in Congo.
Okay.
And this is pretty amazing. You were, well, first of all, you were on TV, right?
Yes, I was on TV. I used to love to be a journalist since I was young. Then I had this, I was elected on high school as a leader for promoting the children's rights among my school. And they gave me this show that I had to do on TV and on the radio to promote children's rights. So, and from there, I go from station to station up to when my husband saw me.
Wait, okay, now we're going to get this deal here, because then you also went on to become a doctor. So here's the deal, Florent. You saw her on TV, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask some yes or no questions, okay? So you decided, I'm going to meet her, right?
Yes, I did.
So you picked her out.
Yes.
And then, so to do that, you went and stood outside the TV station hoping she would walk out and you'd meet her, right?
Yes.
We call that stalking.
Wait. Is it also true that you scheduled a fake interview at this TV station just to meet her?
Yes, I did.
You will never possess what you are unwilling to pursue. And then none of that worked, correct?
None of that worked.
None of that worked. So you found out where she went to church, right?
Yes, I did.
And you went to that church.
I met at my church.
And met her in the church. That's why some of these people are here, Florent. And you met her, and then you guys have been married and have some amazing kids, okay? And we want to say this, first of all, Noah, how old are you?
6.
6 years old.
Yeah.
What do you like to play? What do you like you play games with your dad?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite game to play?
Hide and seek.
What was that?
Hide and seek.
Hide and seek and Lego.
Hide and seek and
Legos.
Oh, perfect 6-year-old kid, huh? And you guys, we just want to say thank you for, first of all, loving God, loving your country. I mean, you are 2 of the most gifted Christian ministry and TV personality, medical folks. You're living here now, and you're setting up a house. And there's a bunch of things you need. For example, there is a actual special needs type wheelchair that is very helpful. The special shoes, all of that kind of stuff. You also need a microwave and a freezer. And so this is a gift packet. And in here to help you guys set up a home. are gift cards to Target, Home Depot, Chipotle, Chili's, Cheesecake Factory, a Shell gas card to commute to Bayside, and an American Express gift card. We also are on your way out today. We are taking a second offering at the doors, and it's our benevolent offering, and we're going to use a bunch of that because the wheelchair is this special wheelchair. It is insanely expensive. There's only it's a one-of-a-kind thing. I talked to a medical guy last night, and he said, oh, it's just been invented. He goes, it's great. Our hospital's trying to buy one for our people. He goes, this is unbelievable stuff. The special shoes are great because then the stuff that he needs to wear fits around them, so you don't have to go through all this kind of stuff. And so we're going to be giving on the way out, and we are going to equip your house and your family. And the other thing, Noah, is this: we have a place called Legoland. And I showed him pictures of it last night. His eyes got that big. So Noah, we are. A friend of mine owns the hotel next to Legoland, okay? We are talking to him and getting you guys free room and boards. We will pay for your transportation down and back and a trip to Legoland for you guys, okay? And we just want to say on behalf of our Bayside family, we are honored you are here. We are honored you came to this country. We are honored to have our country's better because you're here. Our church is better because you're here. And we're looking forward to seeing what else God has because we believe this is a direct thing from God. So let's welcome them one more time. God bless you guys.